Good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is The Nation Wants to Know, and I'm Heena Gambhir. Viewers, it's high time that we throw away the perception that the US-Iran conflict is far away, somebody else's war. You know, the fierce hostilities and the race to control the Strait of Hormuz, the lifeline of global trade, have now exported tragedy, grief, and mourning to households across India. The International Maritime Organization in the last 5 months has recorded at least 53 incidents of attacks on shipping vessels and 15 confirmed seafarer fatalities. Many of these unfortunate victims, viewers, were Indians. As per Indian government sources, since the war began, 13 Indians have lost their lives and 3 are missing. It's a bizarre chain of events. There was a ceasefire in April. Operation Freedom came in May, a peace deal was hailed in June, yet Indians are becoming collateral damage in this war. July 14, when 2 Emirati oil tankers were struck while transitioning the Strait. The offender was Iran. 1 Indian sailor was killed. 8 seafarers who sustained injuries were Indian and Ukrainian nationals. On 12th of July, the container ship MV Galaxy was attacked by IRGC while transitioning Hormuz. The crew had to abandon the ship due to fire and severe engine room damage. 10 Indian crew members were rescued. 1 still remains missing. That's right, something that happened on 12th of July. And till date, we do not know where is that Indian sailor. This is adding to the list of Indian seafarers who got caught in the crossfire. On 1st of March, a day after US and Israel attacked Iran and assassinated their supreme leader, first Indian casualty was reported. Oil tanker MKD Vyom was attacked in the Strait of Hormuz. 1 Indian crew member was killed. Later, the same day, oil tanker Skylight was targeted near Oman. 2 Indian sailors were reportedly killed. June 9, 3 Indians were killed after the US struck oil tanker Setbello off the coast of Oman. And after that came the incidents of July 12th and 14th. This is not all. The International Maritime Organization claims that around 20,000 seafarers remain exposed to deteriorating security situation there. As per reports, 7 Indian vessels with 148 Indian seafarers remain stranded near the Strait of Hormuz. Agonizing wait for them and their families is continuing. You know, on 17th of June, when 3 Indian sailors lost their lives in US military strikes, Prime Minister Modi raised it with Donald Trump on the sidelines of G7 summit. India had also summoned the United States Chargé d'Affaires in New Delhi twice to lodge a strong protest. But now, like I said, the offender is Iran. Following fresh attacks, India did summon Iran's Deputy Chief of Mission to lodge a strong protest against Iranian attacks on oil tankers. Listen in to what MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal had to say.
We had issued a statement post-summoning of the Deputy Chief of Mission of Iran. We conveyed to them our deepest concerns and that we strongly condemned what has happened. We lost a precious Indian life, and there are several Indian nationals who have been injured, and a couple of them are also seriously injured. So we conveyed our strongest protest with the Iranian side on this particular matter, that these attacks, which we condemn, must stop at the earliest. At the same time, there should be de-escalation, and the 2 sides should come to the negotiating table and take the path of dialogue and diplomacy so that peace and stability can be ensured in West Asia.
But viewers, the question being asked is, can India do more to protect Indian seafarers? The Forward Seamen's Union of India says Indian sailors feel as if they've been abandoned. And this is a somber reminder of the human cost of a conflict. And to discuss it, I'm joined on the broadcast by Sushant Sareen, who is Senior Fellow at ORF, Ms. Tara Kartha, former Director, National Security Council Secretariat, Dr. Wael Awad, Middle East expert, Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, also live with us. And I'm also joined by Captain Raman Kapoor, Master Mariner, Merchant Navy Captain of Oil Tanker. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. Captain Raman Kapoor, let me begin this discussion with you because you were also among the stranded Indians in one of the ships, and your ship, I believe, remained stranded for about 2.5 months. Now, when you hear news of one more Indian sailor getting killed, another one remains missing since last over 48 hours, what does it make you feel? And have you been in touch with anybody who's still around the Strait of Hormuz right now? Any seafarer that you're in touch with?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes, I was there for 2.5 months, ever since the war started on 28th February. And I spent horrible 2.5 months inside the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, I totally condemn the attacks happening on the merchant ships, and so many lives are being lost, especially the Indian seafarers. Most of them are Indian seafarers. Some of them are still missing. Their bodies have not been found. And initially, I was, once I returned home, I was in touch with few seafarers, my shipmates there. But luckily, after some time, they have also returned home. But while we are saying that we returned home safely, but still we were replaced by other seafarers on ship. My ship is still stranded inside the Strait of Hormuz, and there are thousands of seafarers still stranded inside. And yes, I urge to the authorities, please do something for their safe evacuation.
In an interview you've said that seafarers are like pawns. People only talk about them when someone gets killed.
That's true. Whenever there is a dead body coming home, then many leaders, many people are, calling out their names, calling out their families, and asking about them. But as soon as the episode is over, then they wait for the next casualty. Till the next casualty, there is a complete silence. I don't know what we are doing towards our safety, towards our safe evacuation from the war zone. So we really need that.
Okay. Ambassador Veena Sikri, I want to understand from you, can India do more to protect Indian seafarers? I mean, it's not our war, but Indians are becoming casualties.
I think the Indian government is already doing a lot. They, as you know, even when the previous, when we had the loss of the seafarers earlier, Prime Minister Modi had taken it up very strongly with President Trump. Not once, but twice, 3 times in the course of that meeting, he mentioned the dangers. And even now, this time, because of the Iranian attack on the UAE vessels, where the Indian seafarers have lost their lives, we have again taken it up with the Iranians. But I think that additionally, there should be a whole public campaign involving even the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which is based in London, because IMO itself has issued strong statements that commercial ships must be protected in times of war, and the seafarers must be protected. I think this is very important, to have a very important campaign for a modus vivendi, a code to protect seafarers. I think this is an important need of the hour, because with the way it's going in the Strait of Hormuz, it doesn't seem that anytime soon there'll be a way out. The MOU has virtually collapsed. President Trump has said it is over. And he's talking about bringing back the naval blockade. He's talking about taking over the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know how he can do that without putting boots on the ground. And then he's talking about a 20% tariff on anybody going through the Strait of Hormuz. So I think this is a very, very difficult situation. And yes, I think with the International Maritime Organization, with other UN organizations in the UN, I think this should become a big campaign, because if this persists, then there'll be only more and even more dangerous for the seafarers. And as you know, Indian citizens are very large percentage of the seafarers. So I think the government is very aware of this difficulty. They have taken it up already, and I'm sure they are planning steps to take it up globally, so that in times of hostilities, the commercial vehicles and the welfare of the seafarers is fully taken on board and looked after by all the warring parties.
Okay. Mr. Sushant Sareen, where do you stand on this? Because, I spoke earlier with the representative of Forward Seamen's Union of India. He just had one thing to say about the condition of seafarers who are still stranded there. Because even though, like Captain Kapoor mentioned, some have been brought back, they were replaced by another set of people. And they said that we feel abandoned. Much more needs to be done. In your opinion, what can be done? What does the law really say? Is it time for countries getting impacted because of what's happening across West Asia, because of what's happening in Strait of Hormuz, to come together and maybe approach UN? Can something be done?
Yeah, nothing can be done. You keep talking about the law. Where is the law operative right now? There is no maritime law, no international law. Nothing is operating. So it's like the law of the jungle. If you have the power, you have the weapons, you fire at the other side. And frankly, while I don't disagree in principle, with what either Captain Kapoor or Ambassador Sikri have said, the fact of the matter remains, the best we can do is issue statements. Unless we want to, actually do something physically about it, we can only issue statements. And if statements could actually help and change the tide of war, the world would have been a very nice place to live in. But the fact of the matter remains, there's very little you can do. Unfortunately, these are people who are caught in the middle of a war. And this war, even though we might pretend that this is not our war, we are very much caught right smack in the middle, because and it's not just the mariners whose lives are at stake. Why are we forgetting that there are a whole lot of workers in UAE, in Qatar, in Kuwait, who have been killed in these bombing attacks or missile attacks by the Iranians? And of course, the Americans cannot wash their hands off, because they are responsible for the death of 3 Indian sailors. So all sides in this particular conflict are guilty, and we are caught smack in the middle. Now the question is that we can keep saying whatever we want to say. What can you do about it? There is very little you can do about it. There is nothing you can do about it, unless you are saying that, look, I am now going to send in my own armada, which is going to blow the hell out of anybody and pull all my ships out. We can't do that. We don't have the capacity, capability. Even the Americans don't have it. Their own aircraft carriers and their big destroyers and their entire armada is 1,000 miles away from the Iranian coast. They're not venturing close because they are afraid for themselves. So, this is a situation nobody anticipated. And the problem is that, we all thought we can wash our hands of this war. We can't. But we don't want to dirty our hands also. So what can we do? We are bystanders. We'll sit, we'll issue statements, we'll make pious, statements. We will issue demarches.
Right.
That's all we can do. There's nothing else we can do. Somebody should tell me what are the practical measures. I don't think there are any.
Okay. Now, that's a statement, that can actually hurt many, because there are families here who are still waiting for their loved ones to be back, who are still stranded there. But Mr. Sushant Sareen, you're someone who doesn't shy away from calling a spade a spade. If this is the reality, the point really is, how should we deal with it? And before I go across to my other 2 guests, I want to quickly once again go back to Captain Raman Kapoor. I want to quickly understand from you, how tough are the conditions for a seaman who is stranded in that kind of a situation? Can you recall, your time there?
Yes, it is very tough over there. First of all, once we are on ship and we are stranded inside a war zone, we are restricted within this ship itself. We cannot get down from the ship. Nobody can board the ship. And in case, God forbid, there is any direct attack happening on that ship, and we can see the missile coming towards us, there is nothing much we can do. We can't fight back. We can't hide. We can hide, but it won't save our lives. So we are restricted over there. That's why seafarers are being pawned. I mean, once you are on ship, we are helpless. So we are constrained by the size of the vessel. And whole world economy is depending on us.
Ms. Tara
This is
Karta,
not our war. Yes, this is not our war. We are not soldiers there.
Ms. Tara Karta, I mean, that's the point. This is not our war. But Indians are getting killed. So the point really is, what is the solution? I mean, can there be a system wherein evacuation happens, given how bad the situation right now is at the Strait of Hormuz? Can evacuation be considered?
Actually, when he says nobody cares for the sailors, which is quite right, now they will probably begin to care for other reasons about this war, because with this 20%, the price of a barrel will go up by $16. Imagine $16 per barrel, 30 million more for a large tanker. When that price hits the landed, what you're going to pay tomorrow or the day after for your petroleum, then people will stand up and do something about the war itself. Because to protect the sailors, first you have to end the war. You can't do anything while there is a war going on. I mean, I'm quite in agreement that, you cannot obviously send in your navy. It can't be done. You can't close down the Iranian embassy because you need to keep talking to our people there. So your options are very few. Does the so-called international community, heavily within quotes, have the courage to put together a flotilla which goes in and says, listen, we are opening the straits to everybody? I don't see anything like that happening. It's possible. It is possible. But the thing is, who will take that, who will bend that cat? Who are the ones who are suffering? It's the global south.
Dr. Awad, in your opinion, where did the things go wrong? I mean, we were talking about a memorandum of understanding. Then there is Article 5 of that memorandum of understanding that declares Strait of Hormuz open, something that both America and Iran agreed to. And then suddenly we got news of Iran hitting ships. In your opinion, what went wrong?
Well, first of all, let me remind you that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is the consequences of the American and Israeli war on Iran. Prior to this war, the whole world knows that there was a free movement, no piracy, no hijacking, no killing, no attack, minimal. And Iran and Oman were the two most responsible countries in monitoring these events. It never happened. So therefore, if we wanted to address it, and spade is a spade, then you have to see who's the culprit. Is Iran attacking ships which does not take the consent of the Iranian? Because you are at the time of a war. They are the two countries, the maritime pass through them. They know that the American deceiving them. The American did it when they said the civilians were killed by the armies and the security of people. And still now Trump says that 50,000 died. But when Trump say himself that he was arming the civilian to kill the military, it gives you a clear indication that there is more to meet the eyes. I know it is the greatest casualty of any conflict, not only the oil, but the seafarer. The seafarer are Indian because there are more than 300,000 Indian are seafarers, officers, their supplier, they're earning their monies, they wanted to survive. It's a very difficult life. You spend 3 months to 6 months in the sea. It's a very difficult life for a captain who's with us, listening to us. He understands the mentality. So the mental stress, you put them in this by asking the American to divert from the Iranian side and go through the Oman because they want to maneuver of the memorandum of understanding. They signed the framework. It's a clear indication, Heena, that America does not want it to honor the 60-day ceasefire they have breached. And Iran's made it very clear in the Article 5. We will monitor 60 days, we'll bring it back to normalcy. If the Americans are not even to apply to the first article of it, that cessation of all activity, including Lebanon, they divert the attention and they said Lebanon is separate with Israel and they signed the deal. Now, imagine if now there will be closure of Bab el-Mandeb or Red Sea. What could be the impact on the global effect and the impact on the sailors, which is mostly Indian? So I believe the best job is to do is that the Americans should and must stop this kind of a piracy in the sea. You do not need to change it. Iran said it very clearly. Give me this the passage. Give me the consent. I'll give you. Just pass. So why we should blame? I'm not here to defend anybody. I'm simply saying it is a fact. When international law to be applied, we only say Iran has to apply the international law. But when America violate and make this war, the whole world is justifying it because they thinking of having a nuclear program, which has never been, even the American acknowledged that there is no nuclear military program of Iran. Even the IAEA have said it. So American president changing his narrative from the nuclear to the Strait of Hormuz, and now he's applying 20% commission on that. Does it give you any sense that the American president is the lust of the oil after Venezuela hijacking of the president and his wife, abducting them and taking the American companies taking the oil of Venezuela and selling to India as well? Now they want to take the third largest reservoir of oil, Iran, and the second largest reservoir of gas is Iran, and we have to keep quiet about it. Might is not right. Right is might.
Absolutely. Ambassador Veena Sikri, another important point is that, of course, a spike in oil prices is going to impact everybody. I don't think America also would want to see that. We have seen it in the past also. Do you think this moment can be used by India to also call for, global consensus or maybe release of stranded ships till things get sorted out between US and Iran?
Yes, definitely. I think there is definite action to be done. I am not as pessimistic as Mr. Sushant Sareen, where he said nothing to be done. I think there are definite two kinds of action. One is, of course, working with the IMO and the global community in the UN and other agencies of the UN to make sure that this compact agreement on not hitting or sending missiles to attack commercial vessels should be observed very carefully. And yes, I agree with our previous speaker that Iran has been following the MOU. Definitely they've been following. And they have been given 60 days to sort out the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. So these 60 days must be given to them, and that must be observed carefully. So all these aspects are very important. I think the third point is that I think the Gulf countries themselves have a very important role to play. In the beginning, on February 28th, when Israel and America attacked Iran, at that time the Gulf countries were fully with the Americans, and they were actually in favor of weakening Iran and not having, a neighbor like Iran. But now, ever since the first ceasefire of 8th of April and then the signing of the MOU in June, the Gulf countries have become much more agreeable to talking to Iran and working out a compact among themselves to bring the situation to normalcy.
Okay.
And why I think it's a very good idea for the Gulf countries to agree among themselves to have a regional agreement among themselves on how they're going to handle it, in which case no outside power is necessary.
Okay.
So I think it's very important now. There is a potential, there is a chance of, and I think we ourselves as India can encourage such a discussion among the Gulf countries, including Iran, and let them come to an agreement and end this this terrible series of events. The attack by Israel and America on Iran have led to this absolutely unacceptable situation. It's affecting all countries, and there's worse news lying ahead. So indeed, something should be done right now.
Okay. Last 10 seconds, Mr. Sushant Sareen, since UN proved to be completely toothless in this, do you think this is an opportunity for India to exploit that moment and, build consensus?
One thing which I admire about Indian diplomats is they're always very optimistic. So that is good. But
So
frankly,
hope is extremely important in the kind of era we are living.
No, but Heena, I don't see any positivity coming in this particular situation. And I'll give you the reason why. So, for example, you get a resolution passed that don't attack commercial shipping. But that defeats the entire purpose of the war from both Iran and America's side. America blockading Iran and Iran saying that, well, I have a monopoly over the Strait of Hormuz. And the only way they can enforce that monopoly is by attacking commercial shipping.
Right.
And by ensuring that the commercial shipping follows their diktats. Neither America nor Iran are observing international principles.
Right.
And no matter what resolution They have an incentive to blow that resolution apart because
Right.
their strategic interests demand that.
Okay.
Unless you can stop them from doing it physically, they're not going to stop.
All right. We'll leave it there. I'm completely out of time, but thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on this debate. We'll see what happens next. New Delhi has called for de-escalation and has registered a strong protest as well with Iranians. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us.